Man, I'm not gonna lie to you. This was a rough one. I figured I'd do a video about Batman and Robin because I did one for Batman Returns and Batman Forever. So I thought Batman and Robin is the next step. But I made a mistake. I should have stopped with Batman Forever. Once again, I don't know if I'm going to be able to say anything that hasn't been said about this movie. I don't know if it's going to be interesting. I don't know if it's going to be funny. But I'm going to try. It's been years since I watched this movie. And I always thought it was bad. But I was hoping maybe it would become kind of in the so bad it's good category. But I don't think it is. It's a mess. It's campy. It's like the 60s Batman TV show, but it's not fun. There's nothing fun about it. It's just dog shit. Anyway, let's just get to it. Batman and Robin from 1997, directed by Joel Schumacher, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, George Clooney, Uma Thurman, Chris O'Donnell, and Alicia Silverfish. It opens up with another suiting up montage, complete with bigger nipples this time. Bigger asses, bigger cod pieces, bigger everything. It's like Joel Schumacher thought maybe people didn't notice the nipples in Batman Forever. So he said, make the titties bigger. And someone said, is that really necessary? And he was like, I said I want bigger titties, God damn it. I want bat titties. And we all get a look at the new Batmobile. And I was wrong when I said the Batman Forever Batmobile was the worst Batmobile. Because this is the worst Batmobile. I mean, it's got glowing turbines, blinking lights. It's doing too much. It's a very try-hard Batmobile. It's also funny that it's a one-seat Batmobile. So was the last one, like a Formula One car. But the Tim Burton Batmobile had a seat for a passenger. But now that Batman actually has a partner working with him, his Batmobile only has one seat. But of course, that's because Robin rides around on a bike. That's his thing. But he does apparently want a car.
I want a car. Chicks dig the car.
This is why Superman works alone.
So this time it's Robin that says chicks dig the car. These fucking chicks love the Batmobile, apparently, even though we never see any evidence of that. And Batman says this is why Superman works alone. As though saying chicks dig the car is not something he said in the last movie.
The car, right? Chicks love the car.
So it's okay when he says it, but when Robin says it, it's annoying. And he says Superman works alone. So Superman exists in this universe? That's fucking insane. And also, Superman doesn't work alone because he doesn't want to put up with a goofy sidekick like Robin. He works alone because he's fucking Superman. He doesn't need a sidekick. Anyway, Batman gets in the Batmobile and Robin gets on his bike. And Alfred says he'll cancel the pizzas. And then he starts crying.
I'll cancel the pizzas.
But of course, Alfred is not actually crying about the canceled pizzas, as I would be. He's sick, which will be revealed later on. But I was thinking, Alfred is pretty old. I'm not trying to be ageist or anything, but it seems like he has a lot of shit to do. He's got to take care of a lot of things in the mansion, on top of his helping out superheroes. You know, they don't seem to have any maids. Who cleans this fucking place? Does this 110-year-old man get down on his hands and knees and scrub the cum out of the bat carpet? Just seems like maybe he's a little overworked on top of being ill. Anyway, the new villain for the day is Mr. Freeze, and he's at the art museum trying to steal a Chaos Emerald. And he's freezing stuff and saying corny shit.
The Iceman cometh.
Get used to that. It's going to be nothing but that for the rest of the movie. And Batman and Robin show up, and Batman introduces himself.
Hi, Freeze. I'm Batman.
Okay, if you weren't absolutely certain that this was going to be a shitty movie, I think that pretty much just confirmed it. Just a wooden, careless delivery of an already shitty line. We're in for a rough one. And a bunch of hobo hockey players show up out of nowhere. I mean, literally out of nowhere. They jump like from behind the scenery and just start fighting Batman and Robin. And Mr. Freeze freezes the floor. And Batman and Robin click their heels together like Dorothy, and some ice skates come shooting out. I mean, why would that have happened? This is their first encounter with Mr. Freeze. Why do they have ice skates in their boots? There's just so much crazy shit happening. I can't keep up with it. They start playing hockey with the fucking giant diamond that Mr. Freeze is trying to get, as though it's some kind of a puck. How is this a movie? It's insane. And Freeze throws a chunky security guard up to where his freeze gun landed in an attempt to knock it down. Kind of like dislodging a stuck basketball with another basketball. And it works. And he gets his freeze gun back and he decides to say shit like this.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!
Okay, there's a lot of ice puns in this movie, but that's not even a pun. That's a fucking trivia question with a wrong answer. And Freeze gets a hold of the diamond that he's been chasing after, and he escapes in a rocket ship. Yes, a rocket ship. And Batman jumps on board, and Freeze traps him in some ice, as he is known to do. And then he says, freeze well, and he jumps out of the rocket. And he deploys a fucking wingsuit with very short wings. He's definitely not going to land safely with these things. It's not going to glide or anything. And he's going to die because he's an idiot. I mean, it even looks as though he's plummeting to his death. He's not gliding at all. So, rest in peace, Mr. Freeze. And Batman is going to be okay because Robin was hanging on to the outside of the rocket ship. He climbs in, he rescues Batman. They put a bomb on the rocket to blow it up so that it doesn't kill anyone when it falls back to Earth. Everyone will just be, showered with shrapnel and debris. No big deal, I guess. And then they escape the explosion on some surfboards. They get on a couple of surfboards and fly away. What the fuck? And Batman fights with Freeze on the way down. I don't know why. All three of these fuckers are clearly falling to their deaths. But hey, they all managed to survive. Yay. And Mr. Freeze freezes Robin. Tragic. And Batman can't chase Freeze because he only has 11 minutes to thaw Robin or he'll die. I don't know where they came up with that number. 11 minutes, but it's very prevalent in this movie. If you don't unfreeze someone in 11 minutes, they die. Okay, so he lets Freeze go, and he saves Robin. And because of that, this movie is forced to continue. And now we get introduced to Pamela Isley. She's a big fucking plant nerd, and she's doing some kind of plant research inside of a fucking castle in the middle of the jungle, as you do. And she's obviously going to become Poison Ivy, but for now, her goal is to give plants the ability to fight humans. So, I mean, she's already kind of a villain. And some crazy scientist named Jason Woodrow, who is actually a character from the comics, he's another plant-themed villain named Floronic Man. And he was responsible for the creation of Poison Ivy, as he will be in this movie. But that's kind of where the similarities end. Because in this movie, he's just basically Dr. Frankenstein. He stole some of Isley's potions and shit and used it to make the venom that turns Bane into Bane. So he straps this seemingly random criminal down and puts a luchador mask on him for absolutely no reason and turns him into Bane with some venom. Except he's not really Bane. He's just kind of a mindless brute. Bane is supposed to be a very intelligent villain, but because he's a big muscular dude, he's sometimes portrayed as just kind of a villainous version of the Hulk, which is what he is here. I mean, he might as well be saying Bane smash. And Pamela Isley sees this transformation, and Dr. Woodrow asks her to join him in his plan for world domination. And she rejects him. And then this happens.
Well, I can respect your opinion. Sadly, I'm not good at rejection. I'm afraid you'll have to die.
What the fuck is happening in this movie? He pushes her, and she knocks over some beakers and some fucking Erlenmeyer flasks and some Bunsen burners and shit, and a portal to hell opens up in the floor. This movie is fucked. And she emerges as Poison Ivy. She's all confident and weird, and she kills Jason Woodrow with a poison kiss. Tragic. And meanwhile, Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson are reading Mr. Freeze's Wikipedia page, and Bruce says Freeze is a 2-time Olympic decathlete and a Nobel Prize winner. So because he is played by Arnold, they can't just make him a scientist. They have to explain why he's so shredded. So that's why he's Mr. Olympia. And he attempted to save his wife by cryo-freezing her until he could figure out a cure for her terminal illness, which is apparently something called McGregor syndrome, which also happens to be the same illness that Alfred is dealing with. But in the attempt, a random explosion happens, and he falls into the cryo liquid.
Liquid is 50 below. He survived somehow.
He survived somehow. And that's what turns him into Mr. Freeze. And now he needs those fat fucking diamonds to power his freeze suit so he can survive. And Bruce Wayne is having trouble trusting Robin because he had to save him from Mr. Freeze, which is very hypocritical. Because just a few minutes before that, Robin saved Batman from Mr. Freeze. So what the fuck is his problem? Shit happens. I don't get it. And Freeze is hanging out in his frozen lair, singing along with Cold Miser while wearing some polar bear slippers. I mean, we get it. You're very ice-themed. Holy shit. And Vivica Fox is in this movie for some fucking reason. She plays some kind of a snowman hooker. She tries to flirt with Freeze, and he's not really having any of it. He gives her the cold shoulder. Ah, you get it? I mean, why is she even here? First of all, Freeze isn't into her, so what is her function? We never see her again. She's only in this one scene. She's half naked inside of a fucking refrigerated living room, while the rest of his goons are freezing their balls off. I have so many questions. I have the same questions I had about Danny DeVito's circus gang from Batman Returns. What are they getting out of this? Why are they working for this guy? How much money are they actually making? Because it seems like every dime is going towards keeping Freeze and his wife alive. I don't know. And he's also smoking a cigar because Arnold likes cigars. That's literally the only reason. He likes smoking cigars, so he smokes cigars in the movie. That's just how it is. And he plans to use these big diamonds to power a device that will freeze the people of Gotham. And he'll hold the city hostage until he gets the billions he needs to complete his research so he can save his wife, Nora. I mean, how is this guy going to spend money on anything? Why doesn't he just steal the shit he needs to complete his research? I don't understand. And then we get maybe the worst 80-yard line ever, or at least the worst one in this movie.
It's winter forever here in Gotham. It's winter forever here in Gotham.
I don't know what he actually said, but it wasn't that. Anyway, this is where we meet Barbara Gordon, or Barbara Pennyworth, I guess. She's going to be Batgirl, but she's not Commissioner Gordon's daughter. She's Alfred's niece for some fucked up reason. I guess because Gordon is barely a character in these movies, and they didn't feel like making him one. I don't know. And she shows up to visit her uncle. And she's got kind of a Sylvester Stallone face for half this movie. It's very strange. I guess that's acting. And she apparently flew all the way from Oxbridge Academy in London while wearing her shitty schoolgirl outfit. She didn't even have a hint of an English accent, but her entire family is apparently from England. I don't get it. And she explains that her parents died in a car accident 5 years ago, and her Uncle Alfred has been supporting her since then. Somehow Bruce Wayne doesn't know anything about this. I mean, the theme of this movie is, I think, family. But it's family that doesn't communicate at all with each other. I mean, Bruce doesn't know that Alfred's sister died, and he doesn't know that Alfred has a niece. But, hey, it's family. And Bruce Wayne invites Barbara to stay at the mansion, and she says, all this luxury isn't really my style, but yeah, I'd love to. How about you just say yes? You don't have to say, I would normally never stay in a place as gaudy as this shit, but sure, I guess I'll stay in your haunted rich guy mansion, you 1%er piece of shit. She's just kind of an asshole to him. And now that she's a guest, she decides that she needs to sneak out of the mansion for some reason, as though she's not allowed to leave. She ties some sheets together and climbs out the fucking window. I mean, what the fuck is going on here? She could just walk out the front door and say, I'm going out. But of course, she does it so she can steal one of the motorcycles from the garage. So, hey, it's a big twist. She's not actually some preppy college idiot. She's a streetwise biker idiot. She steals the bike so she can win money in street races with Coolio. It's very edgy. And the next day, Bruce Wayne unveils a big fat telescope in the middle of Gotham City. How exciting is this? And the same dopey reporter from Batman Forever asks Bruce if he and his girlfriend are going to get married. And this is what he says.
Are you going to tie the knot?
Marriage? Marriage. You wanna give me a hand here?
Bruce and I are recklessly in love, and that's most certainly enough for us. For now.
Wow, way to think on your feet, Batman. Really putting that genius-level intellect to good use. Are you going to get married? Marriage? What does that mean? I mean, just fucking silly. I mean, and what he should have said was, none of your fucking business. How about that? Shut the fuck up. You know, go find your gossip somewhere else. Go take a walk. And I don't know who this woman is, Batman's girlfriend. She's played by Elle Macpherson, but she has absolutely nothing to do in the movie. All she does is wonder if Bruce Wayne is ever going to marry her. That's it. She's in like 2 scenes, and she just kind of randomly leaves the movie after a certain point. I mean, what happened to his last girlfriend? You know, what happened to Chase Mediterranean, or whatever the fuck her name was? She just disappeared. Anyway, he's approached by Poison Ivy, who is pretending to still be somewhat normal, even though she's clearly insane. And she proposes an environmental plan to save Earth. But it will apparently kill nearly all the people on Earth. So, Bruce Wayne rejects it. And this is basically the same scene as the Edward Nygma scene in Batman Forever. I mean, they even look similar. How original. And they're having some kind of fundraiser, rich people benefit shit show, and it's jungle themed. I don't know what the fuck is going on here, and I've given up trying to care. All of it is a ruse to lure Mr. Freeze there, They're showing off a big fat diamond on a big fat stage. And Mr. Freeze, as we know, loves diamonds. So that's Batman's plan. He's going to endanger all these rich fuckheads by trying to get Mr. Freeze to show up with a diamond as the bait. Brilliant. But before Freeze shows up, Ivy makes an appearance in a gorilla suit. And she has cabbage for eyebrows. And, she basically blows some sparkly crystal meth on everybody, and it makes them fall in love with her. This includes Batman and Robin, who are just hanging out at this party. I mean, it's fucking bizarre. And everyone starts bidding on Poison Ivy because they want to buy her. Because they're just too fucking horny, I guess, and they're rich guys. And they love cabbage. And even Batman and Robin start bidding. This is where Batman famously whips out the Bat credit card. And it says Batman Forever on it. You get it? That's the name of another Batman movie. Ugh, I hate it. And what is the billing address for this credit card, I wonder? I have questions. I'm just saying. Anyway, Freeze shows up. And he says, all right, everyone, chill. You get it? And then he starts freezing people. And Batman and Robin are responsible for this. I mean, they wanted Freeze to show up here. What the fuck? And then Freeze meets Ivy, and he calls her a clever little clover. Oh, man, for the love of fuck, stop it. Please, stop it with the fucking alliteration and the puns and the bullshit. I can't take it anymore. And Freeze takes the diamond from Ivy, and he leaves. And then Batman tells Commissioner Gordon that he has 11 minutes to thaw these people. I mean, what the fuck? This is your fault. Freeze is here because you wanted him to be here. And now you're just going to leave and tell me to unfreeze these people? Do I look like I carry 20 space heaters in my pocket? What the fuck am I supposed to do? And Batman and Robin fuck right off. They don't give a shit. They go chasing after Mr. Freeze. And Batman disables Robin's bike because, I don't know, he thinks it's too risky. It's very strange for him to suddenly be worried about the welfare of this 40-year-old child. But okay. And Batman catches up to Freeze and defeats him. And just look at him. He looks like a fucking broken toy. What is going on here? He's so tiny and petite. I don't know. It's just fucking weird. And it turns out that the reason that Barbara has been street racing with Coolio is so she can earn money to take Alfred away from his job at Wayne Manor. She thinks that he's a miserable, unwilling servant of Bruce Wayne. I don't know where she gets that idea from. I mean, he's an English butler who works for a billionaire. I mean, I can't even imagine how much money he's made over the years, and he has zero expenses. And he's been supporting her with money for all this time. So where does she think that money comes from? What an insane thing for her to think. He's doing fine. And she doesn't consider the possibility that Alfred actually cares about the Waynes. I just don't get it. And she also reveals that Alfred is sick. Dying, actually. So now they finally know. From stage 1 McGregor syndrome. And for some reason, he decided to keep this information from everybody, including the man who he sees as a son, the man with unlimited resources and a penchant for helping people out, even if they're total strangers. I mean, it doesn't make sense. And Poison Ivy and Bane decide to break Mr. Freeze out of Arkham Asylum. He's been having a rough go of it. I mean, look at this. Look at this mesamort. Jesus. And all three of them decide to jump 1,000 feet to their deaths in the river below. Tragic. Oh, but they actually survived somehow.
He survived somehow.
Equally tragic. And Batman and Robin are informed of Freeze's escape by Commissioner Gordon. They compare security footage of the escape to this photo. And they conclude that the villains that broke him out are the same ones in this photograph. I wonder what gave it away. And Batman and Robin's relationship has been on the rocks since their encounter with Ivy because of the fucking flower drug she sprayed on them. And Robin thinks Poison Ivy is super into him. He thinks Batman is trying to cockblock him out of some kind of jealousy. It's all very dramatic. But they seem to have resolved their differences, at least for the moment. And then they have this conversation.
I'm totally over, all right? Positively.
Me too, definitely. Great stems, though.
Buds, too.
Yeah, those are nice. Here we go.
For fuck's sake, does everything have to be so cringe? It's fucking painful. I mean, why don't you just start talking about her hydrangea bush while you're at it? I mean, holy shit. And Batman sees a frozen chicken dinner, sesame chicken. And he's like, oh, there we go. And he pulls it aside and he sees a secret passageway that reveals Nora Freeze floating in her Bacta tank. Why did that happen? He's like, oh, obviously, the secret passageway must be hidden behind the frozen TV dinner. It's got to be. Oh. And then Ivy shows up, and another bullshit fight happens. She reinfects Robin with her horny flower powers, and Ivy discovers Nora floating in the tank, and she deactivates it. And she tells Mr. Freeze that Batman and Robin did it. And Freeze believes this for some reason, and he goes a little nuts.
I will blanket the city in endless winter. First, Gotham. And then the world.
Just what I had in mind.
So, Freeze and Ivy are teaming up. Does that make sense to you? Because it doesn't make sense to me. Ivy wants to get rid of all the humans and populate the planet with nothing but plants. And Freeze wants to send the planet into another ice age. I mean, how are you going to have plants in an ice age? All your plants are fucked. These two villains are not people who should be working together. But they are. Oh, and Bane is here too. Fuck me. And Batman and Robin are once again not getting along. They are splitting up. All this while Alfred is on his deathbed. Robin really is an insufferable prick in this movie. And while Bruce is basically saying his goodbyes to Alfred, Barbara decides to be a snoopy bitch and try to get into Alfred's computer. She guesses the password, which is Peg, because pegging is what Alfred loves to do, I guess, in his spare time. I don't know. Actually, it's the nickname for his late sister, which is fucking weird because her actual name is Margaret. I mean, how many fucking people have nicknames that are just a totally unrelated name? Hi, my name is Edward. Most people call me Tim. It's also a 3-letter word, and that as a password is pretty fucking stupid. And, you know, especially since he has it written down on the desk right in front of her. It's sitting right there. Anyway, she gains access to his fucking computer, and she immediately sees all the crazy bat shit. It's fucking bizarre. All the bat equipment is just floating across the screen like a fucking screensaver. And I guess Peg is also the password to the Batcave, because that's where she ends up. She encounters a recording of Alfred, who somehow anticipated that she might find her way into the Batcave, and he says, I took the liberty of making a bat suit for you for no fucking reason. And she's super excited about it.
Suit me up, Uncle Alfred.
I mean, Alfred never mentioned any of this to anyone. He intended for this to happen, but he never said anything about it to anyone. He's a maniac. But at least he seems to have had the decency to avoid putting nipples on her batsuit. Although, oddly, it looks like the fake rubber bat tits are encased in fake rubber cups, like a bra. It has like little seashell cups. What a fucking design for these bat suits. I mean, holy shit. And Batman and Robin finally manage to resolve their bullshit differences, and they decide to work together. Robin goes to see Ivy at her request, and she reveals Freeze's plan to freeze Gotham City. And then she kisses Robin in an attempt to poison him. But hold on there, you botanical bitch. Robin had fake rubber lips on. Oh, you didn't see that one coming, did you? So Ivy goes to plan B and just pushes Robin into some kind of fucking pond, and he can't get out. And then she just walks away and says this.
See ya.
I mean, she might as well have said, wouldn't want to be you after saying that shit. Very 90s. And Batman shows up, and she attacks him with some vines, and she's winning. She's winning this fight. Robin's drowning. They're all fucked. But suddenly Batgirl shows up. And rather than using her plant powers on Batgirl, Ivy decides to fight her, Karate Kid style. And then she says this.
As I told Lady Freeze when I pulled her plug, this is a one-woman show.
Pretty stupid. And Batgirl defeats Poison Ivy, and inexplicably, her own plant traps her. Fucking swallows her up like Audrey from Little Shop of Horrors. What the fuck is going on here? And Batman, Robin, and Batgirl all team up to go take on Mr. Freeze. But they must have went back to the Batcave to change into their ice-themed costumes and bring out their ice-themed vehicles. I don't know why they did that. Clearly designed as a last-minute attempt to sell more fucking toys, it seems. Although they probably shouldn't have done that. They shouldn't have wasted that time because Mr. Freeze has managed to already freeze Gotham City. Tragic. And here's the final fight scene. I mean, Batman defeats Mr. Freeze. Batgirl and Robin defeat Bane just by kicking the tubes out of his fucking head. And then Batgirl manages to unfreeze Gotham by reprogramming the satellites to redirect sunlight from the Congo or some shit. And it thaws Gotham City in seconds. I mean, where do I fucking begin? This is insane. I mean, first of all, the girl who needed 9 guesses just to get onto an old man's computer that has a 3-letter password can somehow reprogram Earth's satellites, and this will somehow collect sunlight and shoot it at Gotham, and 2 seconds of sunlight is enough to melt every frozen person in Gotham? I mean, it's wild. How do they even come up with something like this? And Batman bargains with the now defeated and disheveled Mr. Freeze. He informs him that his wife Nora is still alive somehow.
He survived somehow.
And he explains that it was Ivy that was the one who tried to kill her. And he somehow has a recording of the movie where she admits it. I mean, it's like Spaceballs. It's fucking insane. And Batman asks Freeze for a cure to McGregor syndrome stage 1, which is what Alfred has, obviously. And Mr. Freeze just has the cure on him, and he gives it to Batman. And Alfred is cured. Happy ending. Oh, and Mr. Freeze gets some kind of warped revenge on Poison Ivy in Arkham Asylum. Apparently, he's just able to move around freely in the prison in his freeze suit. Like, that's not going to be a fucking problem for everybody. Anyway, what a movie. What a disaster. From top to bottom, this is a shit show. George Clooney as Batman has the personality of a foot, which, you know, is still more of a personality than Robert Pattinson, but it's just a mess. And Chris O'Donnell as Robin is just a weird character. He's kind of an asshole. He wants to fuck every female character in the movie. I mean, there's basically only 2, but he wants to bang them both. That's his entire character. And his arguments with Batman basically consist of him saying, you just want Poison Ivy for yourself. And Batman's like, no, I don't. And Robin's like, yeah, you do, bro. I saw you getting a bat boner. I mean, that's the level of thought put into this dialogue. It's really not that much different. And Alicia Silverstreak as Batgirl is just horrendous. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking there. They just saw Clueless and said, oh, that must be Batgirl, apparently. And I love Arnold. And he's the best and worst thing about this movie in a lot of ways. He was still the biggest star on the planet when this movie was made. He made $25 million for doing 25 days of work, which is, it's pretty insane. And, nobody came out of this movie unscathed. It kind of torpedoed everyone's career. Even Arnold was never the same after this fucking movie. The only ones who came out of it unscathed was George Clooney, who only got bigger after this, and possibly Uma Thurman. But that's it. It just wrecked everything. It even wrecked superhero movies. This was it. It was over after this. I saw this movie when I was 12 years old. And even as a 12-year-old, I knew, this is it. This is over. I'm kind of done with superheroes in movies. I don't care about it. I'll read comics and I'll watch animated shows, but that's it. And it's fucking insane that they took 2 of Batman's most well-intentioned villains, Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze. They're not really evil characters. Freeze is just trying to save his wife. Ivy is kind of a environmentalist at heart. There's nothing really malicious about her at her core. But they turned them into like the most evil, mustache-twirling villains they could possibly think of. They want to destroy the world. It's just fucking silly. And Mr. Freeze, it could have been great, because Mr. Freeze is one of my favorite characters. Go watch the Heart of Ice episode of Batman the Animated Series. It's fucking amazing. And it's shocking how much better it is than this big-budget circle jerk that was only designed to sell toys. Ugh, what a mess. And they could have just called Superman. As Batman said, this is why Superman works alone. They just could have gave him a call. He would have solved it in 2 seconds. Anyway, I've fucking babbled enough, don't you think? Feel free to tell me to shut the fuck up. Stop being a blowhard. Ugh. I think I'm going to lay off Batman for a while. It's just too time-consuming. I mean, look at this shit. 40 minutes I've been yapping about this shit. Anyway, that is all I got for now. Until next time, take it easy.
I'll cancel the pizza.
He survived somehow.